We're good. We are good. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the stream. As always, you can check the Google Doc description, the YouTube description for a link to the Google Doc. This document here. And I would really recommend you use it today because I've got a bit of a vocabulary list because we're going to be reading an article about shika, about deer in Japan. So yeah, get that Google Doc open and yes, it'll have the vocab list down here. I've also got a link to the article that we'll be reading today, so I recommend you follow along. I'll be putting the article up on the screen, of course, but just in case you want to look at it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, I think we're good to go now. Okay, so first we'll just go through why are we doing this article. I think it's a good idea to always ask yourself, why are you watching this lesson? Why are you doing it? And first of all, I mentioned this a few times in my previous videos, but the thing which is going to catch a lot of people in Japanese exams particularly is the examiners are going to test your cultural knowledge of Japan a little bit. Okay? Of course, they're going to assess you very heavily on your Japanese language skills. But you have to understand that speaking a language goes beyond just mere grammatical rules and learning a few words, okay? Especially when you talk about a place like Japan, very kind of ethnically homogenous, you're going to have a very deep shared cultural ideas that permeate all throughout Japan. And Japanese people are going to know, for example, if you say, hey, what place in Japan is famous for deer? Like, unanimously, I would say, people are going to answer, Nara. Okay? And perhaps if you've not been to Japan before, you're not aware of this, if this comes up in an exam question, they start talking about shika, and you think, what are they talking about? You might even think of the grammar, the dake shika grammar. Okay? But, if we're going to look at all the words for animals in Japan, you're not expected to know every single Japanese word for every single animal. But if there's going to be a list of animals you should know, shika is going to be there, okay? Because these are quite big in Japan. Some other ones I would say, kuma, like the bear. This is a big one. Probably should have thought of this a bit harder. But those are the big ones. I guess all the baseball teams, but I doubt that's going to come up much. But they've got a lot of animals in them as well. But it's much more likely than other animals, say like animals you're going to find only in Africa or animals you find in Australia, okay? This deer in Nara is a very common one. So it's good to know these things because this is a perfect exam question, okay? Talking about shika in Nara. And people who know a little bit about Japan are going to be better prepared for this than people who are not. Okay, so really good to learn about these kind of cultural things that a lot of Japanese people, if not all of them, know about. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at today. Alright, so let's go through this grammar list really quickly, and then we're going to read the article. So, first off, we've got Nara-shi. Okay, so Nara is the place we're talking about. I should really bring it up on the map, but it's very close to Kyoto. Okay, very ancient city, Nara. Okay, very ancient and very active. This part of Japan was very active hundreds of years ago. Big major trading ports were nearby, so they got a lot of trade from China. Buddhism obviously is massive in Nara as well. They got the Dai Butsudan, another topic that could come up a lot if we're talking about World Heritage, for example, in Nara. So the Dai Butsudan is a massive Buddhist statue. And just to give you an approximate size of it, it's kind of sitting there in a kind of Buddhist pose, and the middle finger, alright, because the hand, I can't exactly remember how the hand is, but basically the hand is upright, and the middle finger is about the same height as me, and I'm like, I'm not tall, but I'm 178 centimeters or something, so it's a pretty big statue, let me just put it that way. Okay, but we're dealing with Nara. Alright, now this kanji, if we're talking about year 12 students in particular, you have to know this kanji, okay? This is shi, this is city. But you can also see it in the word for market, but that's like ichiba. And that word has come up before, but definitely you want to learn it in this context, right? We read it as shi. And if it helps you remember, think of the word for sisters or brothers, whatever, shimai, okay? This kind of is contained in there if you look at it, right? We have onna, and then this kanji on the right for ane, for one-san. But anyway, okay, so narashi. Alright, now we got shika. Now you don't really have to, you definitely don't have to know this kanji, but you have to know the word, okay? So this is a deer. Toru. Alright, we have this verb. Now again, you don't have to know this kanji, but you have to know the word. So toru means to take, okay? But there's several kanji because there's several different meanings of take. And here we're talking about taking a photograph. So actually it kind of works very similar in English. And also we saw in that that last week's lesson when we talked about trains, that this was talking about taking video as well. Okay, so it applies to both of them. Basho. Okay, this is a word people always forget. I'm talking about my year 12 students again. You have to know this word, alright? Guaranteed this is coming up in your exam, okay? It means a place. Again, it's a receptive kanji, so you don't have to know them separately. But some of you might recognize this tokoro from daidokoro, okay? From kitchen, but also just the word tokoro, which means place, okay? But both of these, we're going to have a lot, okay? And I've even seen this kanji said, for example, this isn't in the article, but when they're talking about entrance to a place, entrance fees, for example, they'll say this, nyūjōryō. Okay, I've heard that word come up before. It wasn't vital to understanding that dialogue because it was in the listening, but we have hairu to enter, we have our ba, which is right here as jaw, and ryo, which is fee. Okay, all of these are kind of receptive kanji, but yeah, nyūjōryō, so entrance fee. Okay, so it's definitely worth getting good at that kanji. Alright, hanareru. Alright, now here we're getting into, I would say this is kind of above year 12 level, but we're still within JLPT N4 level, okay? So, hanareru. Alright, now this kanji means to kind of be separated. Did I spell that wrong? Just doesn't like it for whatever reason. Anyway, hanareru. Alright, to be broke. Right, this is actually the kanji from divorce. This is the ri from rikon. Okay, kon, kekkon, rikon. Okay, but yeah, it's kind of an advanced word, so don't worry about it too much. Narabu. Okay, again a bit of an advanced word, but this is to be kind of lined up, or we talk about like lines and things like this, and in this article it talks about lines, rows of houses basically. Hosoi. Alright, this is a word you should know. Well, it's good to know. I shouldn't say should know, but it's definitely good to know. It's one of these kind of describing, it's an adjective, but narrow. So these kind of fat, thin, small, big, these kind of, I want to say basic adjectives, you should try and learn them as much as possible. But a bit of a rarer adjective, but I've seen it come up a few times. To. Okay, now this is a counter for animals, alright? This is actually the kanji for atama, for head. But here we read it as to. We use our onyomi, okay? And we'll see, because we're counting heads of deer, right? Now, when do we use to and when do we use hiki? Well, hiki, remember, is for small animals, okay? So dogs and cats, alright? And normally I say, once you get to about the size of a horse, you're going to move into to territory. But we see here, shika is a bit smaller, especially Japanese deer. They're a bit smaller than horses on average, I'd say. So it's like, yeah, that kind of, maybe a small horse is what I should say from now on. But at least, deer is one animal that falls into this to counter. Alright, mamoru. Alright, this means to protect. Bit of an advanced word as well. Katsudo. This is definitely a word you have to know for year 12. Okay, this comes up every year. There's about 10 receptive kanji compounds like this. Katsudo is a kanji compound that come up almost every year on JLPT. I've gone through some of them in my previous videos dealing with how to do well in Year 12 exams and things like that. But yoyaku, yotei, katsudo, bukatsu, oops, katsudo, bukatsu. These words come up all the time. All right, so it's worth really look these kanji up in a kanji dictionary, okay, and try and associate English meanings with them. And then you also just want to, put these in a word list and constantly read them so that it becomes grained in your head, right? But door comes up in lots of countries, conjugations. Undo, dobutsu, we see a bit later, okay? And katsu, bukatsu is another one, okay? So we've got kind of vigorous and movement, alright? Now this actually means a movement, or it kind of is talking about activism, I guess, a bit more broadly, okay? And especially in this article. Alright. What else we got? We have... I should be sitting up a bit more. Yeah. Alright. We have dantai. Okay, this is again, bit of an advanced word, but it's a group or an organization. Normally, not always, but generally not for profit. Like, it's not really like a corporation. It has got that kind of legal shield idea. Okay, it's this generally not for profits, but not always. All right, utsuru. This is definitely a bit of an advanced word. Now, some of you might recognize this kanji. This is the A from eiga, okay, from movie, and this means to project something. All right, and how it gets used in this article is they're talking about this person from this Deer Preservation Society group, I guess you call them, is someone's taken a video and they're watching the video and they say, well, what's shown on the video, blah blah blah. Okay, so it's kind of this second meaning, to be displayed on a screen. Alright, tokidoki. This is definitely something that comes up a lot of times. Now, a lot of people know this word, tokidoki, but just not sure of the kanji. Okay. Now, this little mark here, you'll see this in a few. I was actually going to write down a few examples. I'll just do that now. But we see, it's not. You don't need to know the name of this or anything. Okay, as long as you remember that this character repeats stuff, you'll be fine. You're never going to get asked, hey, what's the name of this character? Like, even I would say, I don't know, but I would say some Japanese people probably don't even know what this is called. Alright, so it can be referred to as noma, okay, or do no jiten, okay, and really all it's doing is repeating a kanji, okay. So let's look at some examples of some words where this is going to come up, okay. I just put them here. Okay, we have hitobito, we have iroiro. What's another good one? Hitobito, iroiro, samazama. Okay, these are some common ones. You don't really get that many, I've noticed. Tokidoki is probably the most common one you get. But here, this is read as hito, bito. Okay, so this just kind of means people. Hito, person. Hito, bito, people. How's this going to work? Gotta add another row. Is it a row? Oh, it is. Oops. No, it isn't. Tricked me. Okay, and sama, zama, and iroiro. Okay, so we'll see, first of all, sometimes they'll get dakutens, okay, dakuon, for this second sound. Here, even we have it here. Here we don't, obviously we can't do it to an E, but it's not always going to happen. Alright, so samazama is like various, okay, iroiro is also kind of means various, okay, so we'll see these a lot, just saves you having to write the kanji twice. Soto, this is a very good kanji to learn. A lot of you might know this actually from gaikokujin, from foreigner, okay, but we have to be able to read the kunyomi for this as well, alright? So one area which gets tested a lot in Japanese is we look at our locations, okay? Mae, ushiro, tonari, ue, shita, okay? You need to know all these words. Soba, yoko, all these words. We saw yoko last week actually in our camera article, but soto, naka, okay? These are two other ones. Soto, outside, naka, inside. Need to know all these words. Mezurashi, okay, this is not a word you'll have to know for year 12. I mean, obviously it helps if you do, but it's very unlikely to come up, but this means rare or unique. Odoroku, definitely a very advanced word. Kind of a tricky kanji as well, but this is to be surprised by something. We see that deers are easily surprised, is how this comes up. Dobutsu, alright, our animal, and shizuka, quiet, okay? We actually see this gets used as an adverb in the article, but yeah. Okay. So like I said, there's a link to the article. I would recommend you pull it up. I'm going to try something a bit different and um, do it writing on it, but we'll see how we go. Try new things here. Okay. The one. Okay, so this is our headline. So this doesn't mess up when I move it. Looks alright. Okay. Remember, you've got the button where you can turn on Furigana, okay? If you're finding it hard to read this, but I'll be reading it so you can just listen to the video really carefully and get it from there as well. Okay. So we have Nara市で鹿が街を走るビデオがインターネットに出る。Okay, インターネットに出る。Alright, so Nara市で. So basically at Nara City or in Nara City. 鹿が街を走るビデオ. So 鹿 is a deer. が街を走る. So hashiru is to run. Some of the I didn't put all the words that appear in this article in the word list. The ones I didn't put in particular, just to kind of draw the implication from that you should be able to read these, and if you can't, you really need to study those words first. Okay, so hashiru, to run. You need to be able to know this kanji, read this kanji. All right. It's illustrative, I guess, to look at the word for the kanji for ashi in this situation. Okay. This is what I used to think of when I looked at this kanji. Ashi hashiru. These kind of make sense to me. But yep. Alright. So with Japanese, one technique we can do is always read from the back. Okay? Read from the back of the sentence and go forward. So we got deru. Alright, deru. So remember, we got deru and we got dasu. And actually both of these words appear in this article. But internet ni deru, okay? So this is kind of saying it appears. I mean, we don't know what, but something appears. Internet ni, okay? So something appears on the internet. Ga. Alright, so this ga is telling us, or this is the thing that appears on the internet. So what appears on the internet? Narashi de shika ga machi o hashiru video. Alright, so a video of deers running through Nara City appears on the internet. Now, this usage of "or" I want to point out is a little bit. It's not. It's just perhaps a bit of a different usage of "or" that most of you are used to. Okay, so if we think of, I wonder if this is going to work. If we think of a sentence like this. Okay, like gohan o taberu. Okay, mizu o nomu. Okay, these sentences should be pretty familiar to a lot of you if you're kind of in year 12. But it's kind of saying, well, we have eat and we have food, and it's like the eating acts on the food, right? Through this or particle. Same thing here. Drinking, water. The drinking kind of acts on this water. So this is why it's called the direct object particle, okay? Because it's kind of acting as a conduit between the two. But or has another usage that we only kind of see when we're dealing with movement verbs a lot of the time, okay? And it's kind of saying, it kind of means through. Alright, so when we have machi or hashiru, it's kind of saying they run through the city. Alright, it's kind of a bit of a, it's not uncommon, but it's kind of it's probably a bit of a different usage of or that many of you are used to. Okay, I think that's all we really need to talk about here. Okay. Alright. Wait, that's not gonna work. Okay. Let me just zoom in this thing a little bit. Alright, so we're going to the next part of our article now. Not sure exactly how I'm going to set this up so it's easier to do straight away. It's still pretty small. Paint is probably not the best way to do this. I don't know if that's too small. It looks small on my preview, but no, it looks alright actually. Can't really make it much bigger without. If I get rid of this. Yeah, it's not gonna work. Probably should just make my own face a bit smaller. 1 second. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Alright. Yeah, that'll do. Alright. So there's the next part of the article. Alright. So, we've got Nara市の大学生は今月13日、たくさんの鹿が街の中を走っているところを撮ったビデオをインターネットに出しました。Okay? Be careful of this. 出しました. Alright, they're being a bit tricky because the headline and then this next sentence, although very similar, they did change this verb slightly. Alright, so what's going on here? Alright, so, 奈良市の大学生は. Okay, so whenever we see a wa, we should kind of look at everything in front of it and kind of put it all together. But we got 奈良市の大学生. Okay, so 大学生, university student, 奈良市の. Okay, remember this is of. So universe, and we just read backwards, right? So university student of Nara. Wa. So as to this university student of Nara. Okay, and just want to point out, this is not super important, but I like to point these things out. Notice here that this is not saying that this is like a Nara. This is not necessarily a university student who goes to university in Nara. Okay, we don't have any mention of a university. This could be a university student from anywhere. It's probably a Japanese person, but they're probably, you know, they're not necessarily a yeah. Anyway, so 今月. Okay, so so 漢字見るとわかると思いますけど. Okay, this is a phrase you should try and remember. Good usage of the to conditional. But if you look at the kanji, you should understand, right? But we have ima, and we have I mean, I shouldn't really say tsuki, but we have the kanji for month, right? Gatsu or getsu. Now, so it's like this month, alright, so we should try and remember how to read these. These can be a bit frustrating, but you really need to know how to say this year, next year, last year, this month, next month, last month, this week, next week, last week. All these, alright? So 1 week, like one time period forward, one time period back. You should know for years, months, days, weeks. You really should know all of these because they're going to come up. Okay, I'm telling you, they're coming up in the exam. So 今月13日, right? So this, the 13th of this month. たくさんの鹿が, so many deer. 街の中, okay, so pretty similar usage of no here again. 街の中, so the center of the city. Or, okay, using our or particle again, just like before. Or 走ってる. Okay, so running, okay, our progressive form, our ongoing state of affairs. Tokoro, hashitteru tokoro, okay? So this is a kind of a shorthand way of saying, um, he took a video, this unnamed university student took some video of deer running in Nara, okay? And so hashitteru tokoro, alright, so, he took the deer, we can assume, aren't running still, okay? But when they were running, he took a photo of it, right? So hashitteru tokoro wo. So while they were running, he took a photo of it, is what this hashitteru tokoro is. Okay, totta video. Okay, so if we remember back to our word list, toru is to take. Alright, so we've got our past form. Now, toru, this is not a ru verb, okay? This is an u verb. So it goes to torimasu. Alright, torimasu. And then this is why we have our little tsu here, okay? You just really have to know this, your tef form, conjugations, it's very important. And these kind of mistakes, you might think you could just fudge them, especially in the writing section, you think you can probably just fudge them. First of all, no, you can't fudge them. Any examiner is going to pick this stuff out very easily. Any marker, I guess I should say. Number two, you're going to waste a lot of time over the course of your Japanese career while you're studying Japanese at school. You're going to waste a lot of time. You're going to get here and go, wait a minute, is it totta? Do I put a tsu there? Do I always put a tsu? Do I just put the ta there? And you're going to waste valuable time just thinking about this stuff. When if you just memorized your tef form table, and specifically, I wouldn't really say that you have to memorize your tef form table, but you have to remember an example from each of the tef form 4 categories of the u verbs, so you can easily just go, okay, well, it's the same ending, so it must be the same, okay? So, for example, okay, if I've got a verb that maybe we get one that we can do it with a verb that you're not familiar with, but we could say toku. Okay, toku is a verb probably a lot of you don't know, but this is to complete or to answer like a question or something like that. Alright, mondai o toku. Now, toku ends with a ku, so in my head, this is my thought process. I go, okay, what's a verb that I'm very familiar with a tef form, that I can think of that ends in ku? Okay, kaku. This is going to be the first answer a lot of you come up with. Alright, to write. And what does kaku become? Kaite. With that i, that ku becomes an ite. Same thing, toite. Okay, and so for example, toru, I used to think of the verb kaeru, which is to return home. Kaete, alright, with a little tsu in there, right? So utsu and ru all get a little tsu. Torimasu. Okay, so totta video, so the video he took, or internet ni dashimashita. Okay, so now we've got dashimashita. Alright, this is different from demasu or deru. Actually, I think the headline was. Right, but whatever, plain form, must form, who cares? But dashimashita. Okay, so this university student takes this video of the deer running through the city, and he puts it on the internet. Interneto ni dashimashita. Alright, so he uploads it. Alright, next bit. So, 鹿が走っていた場所は Okay, I'll just keep reading actually. 奈良公園から300メートルぐらい離れていて、家が並ぶ細い道です。大学生は50頭ぐらいの鹿がいたと話していました。Alright. So, 鹿が走っていた場所は Alright. So, 場所, we saw in our word list, right? This means place. 走っていた. Okay, so our progressive form, but now we've got a past form on the end here. 走っていた. So, were running. Okay, were running. Now, what was running? Well, whenever we've got this kind of question in our head, when we're talking about an unknown thing or a specific thing, ga, alright. So the deer that were running, the place that the deer were running, wa. So as for the place where the deer were running, Nara koen. Okay, koen. This is, probably should put this in the word list. This is a kanji that perhaps a lot of you maybe can't read, but you know this word, okay? A lot of you know the word for park. Just you haven't seen the reading of the kanji before. So again, it's a receptive kanji. It's best just to, especially this N, or both of them really. You should just learn it in this kind of have it in a word list, right? Have koen and have it written in hiragana, and just kind of look at them over and over again and practice writing out the kanji. Because trust me, if you practice writing out the kanji, that's going to help you remember it so much more than just you don't have that mind-body connection thing, right? If you're just passively reading stuff on a piece of paper, okay? You'll get there eventually, but it's much more efficient to try and write this kanji a few times out to really kind of put it in your brain, all right? But this first kanji, this is ko, or muke, but this is public, okay? And we have en, all right? So this is like a garden, something maybe it's a public gardens, park. So Nara koen kara 300 meter gurai hanarete ite. All right, so this is our hanareru. Okay. My kakijun was very bad there. All right. But here we got a te like this, which tells us that this is a ru verb. Okay, hanareru. So a lot of people translate this wrongly. Okay, so don't try and just go step by step and look at what the grammar is telling you. Okay, so kara. All right, what does this mean? From. So Nara koen kara. So from Nara Park. 300. Alright, listen to that pronunciation there. 300. We get a B sound here. Alright, 300 じゃないです. 300. And then here we got an M. Alright, Japanese people still pronounce this a certain way. Alright, don't let your English brain take over. Metoru. Long, we got a yokobo in there. Alright, it's getting pretty messy. Metoru. Alright, if we're going to write it in Japanese. Like this. Metoru. Alright, we've got a yokobo here. Metoru. Metoru gurai. Alright. So this is a super important point. Alright, these are going to come up in exams all the time. You're going to lose marks if you don't, if they say, hey, it was about 300 meters, if you don't put that about in your answer, you're going to lose half mark. Okay? Unfortunate. But yeah, if you just got to think, what would the perfect answer look like, okay? And a perfect answer is not going to miss out important details like about 300 meters, okay? It's not like this was measured or anything, okay? This is some yoso desu ne. Yoso, someone's guess or estimate. Alright, so 300 gurai hanarete ite. Okay, so it's approximately gurai 300 meters from Nara Park. Hanarete ite, alright? So it's basically separated from Nara Park. Alright, where this video was taken. Okay, now this is it's not, it might seem like a bit of a trite point if you're just reading this article and you don't really know about deer and Nara, but let's have a very quick talk about why this article is even written. Alright, so there are many deer in Japan, okay, and particularly very concentrated in Nara. Alright, these are very docile, I don't want to say domesticated, but they're very accustomed to humans. Let's just put it that way. Okay. Now, when you go to Nara, Nara is not a super big place, but there is a massive park in there, right? Nara Koen. And in this park, you have a lot of World Heritage listed places. You got the Daibutsudan and all these kind of areas. It's a bit of a not a tourist trap, but the tourist area. Let's just say, big park. Now, there's all these deer, they just kind of wander around. Now, this place is not really fenced in, okay? It's not like the deer can't escape the park. But you can buy esa, alright? Shika no esa. You can buy it from all these stalls around, and they're just like these little cookie biscuit things. And you can give them to the deer, alright? You're allowed to feed the deer there. And funnily enough, these deer, it's quite an amazing thing, but they will bow their heads, alright? So if you just give them the cookie, they'll just eat it. But if what you do is you don't give it to them straight away. You kind of put it out there and then you kind of take it. Well, I don't know if I should be saying this is how I did it anyway. My host mom told me to do it. It's all right. But you kind of you don't give it to them until they bow their head. All right, and then they'll bow their head. It's kind of funny. how this they've learnt this behavior. All right, but they will do it. And because this is where the food is, this is where the deer stay. They don't normally just go gallivanting around the whole of Nara. Alright, so it's a bit of a rare sight to see them outside the park. It's not unusual completely, but to see this many deer outside the park, this is how this made news. Alright, so these deer are about 300 meters away from this park where they normally are. Alright, so ie ga narabu hosoi michi desu. Alright, so this is just describing the scene. You can see in the video a bit more. I recommend you go and watch the video. It's in the article. But so ie ga narabu hosoi michi desu. Right. So again, always read from the back. Hosoi michi. All right. So a narrow road. Ie ga narabu. Okay. And if we look at the actual article, which I have somewhere. Oh, they've taken a what? Taken a photo down. That's weird. Okay, I take it back. The old version of the article definitely had a picture at the top. Anyway, you could see it. They had a still from the video, and anyway, just go watch the video. But anyway, it's a very Japanese looking still from the video. Let's just say these ancient houses, and they've got the wall, very thin road, and then there's houses lining up either side of this hosoi michi, right? This narrow road. Okay, so yeah, a bit of a tricky, at least as far as vocabulary go, this is a bit of a tricky little segment here. Actually, this whole sentence is a bit tricky. A lot of my students who I've run through with this, have really struggled to work out what this sentence means. But just kind of go back to basics and kind of look at it in segments. All right. So it continues. 大学生は so as a university student 50頭ぐらいの鹿がいたと話していました。Alright, so let's start from the back again. We got と話す. Alright, so this と, this is our quoting particle. Alright, so basically he said this, or she, we don't know actually. Alright, said that there are about 50 deer. Okay, now notice that we have hanasu here. Alright, remember hanasu is to speak. Now, if he was being quoted, as we see someone gets quoted a bit further down the article, we would expect this kanji to be used, alright? Iu. Alright, this is to say. I know speak and say, what's the difference? Well, what this hanasu tells us is that he didn't, the university student did not say this statement to like a reporter or something and they're being quoted. What's actually happened is that they said it in the video. Alright, so they're filming, and they're like, 50頭ぐらいの鹿がいる. Alright. I think there's about 50. Okay, so just keep a notice there, right? And we also have this, you know, progressive form with our past tense. So it's like, you know, it was an ongoing state of affairs. That person, this university student, said it, was saying it, I guess we should say, was saying it in the video. Okay, so goju to, alright, remember back to our vocab list. To is heads of deer, right? So there's about 50 deer, which is quite a lot. And if you look at the picture, it's kind of a very narrow street. So, yeah. Gurai. Alright, so again we have our gurai. So about 50 deer. No shika ga ita. Okay, so very interesting to, drawing way too much on this. Very interesting little sentence fragment here, okay, to look at the word order. So the counter comes first, approximately comes second, no shika. 50頭ぐらいの鹿. Okay, this is a very standard way to say this type of sentence. Alright, last little bit. Sun. Alright. Let's fix this up. Alright. Excellent. That wasn't too bad. Really want to add a background picture here. Make it look a bit nicer. Alright, production value. Okay, so last little bit here. So, 鹿を守る活動をしている団体の人は、ビデオに映っているのは奈良公園の鹿だと思います。鹿は時々食べ物を探すために公園の外に出ますが、こんなにたくさんの鹿が街の中で見つかるのは珍しいですと言っています。そして鹿は何かに驚いて走っていたのかもしれません。鹿はすぐに驚く動物なので静かに見ていてくださいと言っています。Alright. So having a bit of a change of subject here. We're now talking to this person, this unnamed person who works for some kind of deer protection, deer conservation society. Alright, it's unnamed, it's kind of anonymous source. Okay, so again, we got a wa here. So let's treat all of this stuff as kind of one big group of something. So shika o mamoru. Alright, so again look in the word list, but mamoru to protect. Alright, so what are we protecting? Shika. Shika o mamoru, protect the deer. Katsudo. Okay, this is our activism movement word. Or shiteiru dantai. So our group. No hito. Alright, so this is a person from a group or whatever organization that kind of does activism campaigns or whatever to protect deer. Alright, so like an animal welfare style, animal welfare society kind of group, but they looks like they focus. It's not really clear, but sounds like they focus specifically on the deer. And I would say that this is like a Nara. I couldn't say for sure, but a Nara-based group. All right, so particularly looking after the deer in Nara. All right, and there's a lot of them, by the way, so probably need to protect them. Okay, so this person, all right. As for this person, ビデオに映っているのは奈良公園の鹿だと思います。Alright, so remember this 映っている, this is to be projected or to be shown, okay? So this person has watched the video as well, okay? They've been shown this video and then they got an opinion, okay? So ビデオに映っているのは, so the 映っているのは, so the thing that is shown on the video, 奈良公園の鹿, okay? So again, 鹿の奈良公園, deer of Nara Park. Alright? Deer of Nara Park. Alright, just kind of substitute any word for Nara Koen. Tokyo no shika. Kanazawa no shika. Okay? You know, so you got to really get used to this word order when we're dealing with no. Okay? Very, very important. You just kind of very quickly get this and go, you know, Nara Park deer. Alright, we can think of this as apostrophe S as well if we want. Nara Park's deer. Okay? Da to omoimasu. Okay? So we got shika here. Shika. Okay? Which is a noun. Alright? And when we're talking about thoughts, alright? To omoimasu. Okay? Just like we can use this to quote what someone says, we can also kind of quote what, you know, basically saying, I think X. And the to joins the I think to the X. Alright? I think X. Alright? And because we got chika is a noun, we need to put a da. Just like we would if it was a na adjective. Okay? But basically saying, I think that these are shika deer from Nara Koen. Okay? So these aren't deer from somewhere else. Okay? Now how would this person know this? Well, you know, it's kind of their job to know. But I do remember that the deer were tagged in Shikara. I think they had ear tags or whatever. So they just kind of keep monitoring of the numbers and stuff. Okay, so they're not a deer. I mean, not exactly a groundbreaking statement, but it's good to know, I guess. But then we got Shika wa tokidoki tabemono o sagasu tameni. Probably should put this word sagasu in the word list. Sagasu tameni. After Tokidoki. So ですね. Chotto matte kudasai. Sagasu. Alright, there is kanji for this word, but let's quickly swap to this. Alright, so sagasu. Okay, but yeah, there is kanji, but you don't need to know it for JLPT. Sorry, you need to know it for JLPT, you don't need to know it for your Year 12 exams. But sagasu, to search, to look for. Alright, so notice we have on the left here, we have our tehen. Tehen, okay, we have our hand radical. Alright, because, you know, try and think about when we search, what are we doing? We're using our hands, alright? For some reason I always think of, what is it, raccoons, I think raccoons have, super sensitive hands, right? And they can't see or smell very well, I think. So they do basically all their seeing with their hands. It's pretty amazing. But anyway, that's what I think of when I think of this kanji for some reason. Okay, now, why do I mention this? Well, first of all, it's good to have these stories in your head when you're trying to remember what kanji mean. There's a great book called Remembering the Kanji. I can't quite remember the author right now, but I can tell you in 2 seconds. Wait, where's my ebooks? James Heisig, Heisig. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Really good book. I would say it's probably a bit late to start reading it now if you're in Year 12, unless you're really on top of your study. But if you're looking to really progress your kanji, I think this is one of the best books I've ever read for doing this. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I feel like I've got a very similar system. It's just much his was much more refined and a lot more consistent than my system. I mean, these are all mnemonics anyway, alright, when you're trying to remember all this data, all these kanji, and how they all fit together and how to write them. And by no means would I mean, I can't remember if this is the same guy, but I think he passed kanji kente, alright, so the kanji exam, level 1. I'm not sure if it's the same guy or not, but at least I can imagine that if someone followed this system, they could pass kanji kente with this. Quite an amazing system, but good book anyway. I would you can get the first chapter online for free, the introduction, and have a read of it. And if it tickles your fancy, I would definitely recommend picking up a copy because it's very interesting. Just I don't have my image. There we go. Oh man, we'll get there, guys. We'll get there. We'll get to the full awesome production value. Alright, now just one last point on this sagasu thing. The reason I mentioned the hand thing is because we have this kanji as well. Alright, fukai. Alright, now we notice the right side is the exact same, okay? Exact same for these two. Okay, but here now we have a radical called sansui. Sansui, okay? Sansui. Sansui. So sun, 3. Sui is a water word, okay? Think of suiyobi, Wednesday, for example, okay? So sui. So, you know, deep water, fukai, and sagasu, tehen. Alright, so these are the kind of things that kind of go through my head, alright? And not just my head, by the way. You know, Japanese people as well would explain the kanji this way. You know, you start with sagasu wa tehen kara. Fukai wa sansui. Alright, this kind of differentiation is very important. When you're trying to remember thousands of kanji, you need some way. You can't just do it from using your memory to think and go, oh, when I learnt this kanji and I wrote it down for the first time, what did it look like back then? Never going to work, okay? It's going to get completely lost in your head. You need to have a story that you can tell yourself, right? And this is why Remembering the Kanji, that book I just referenced, great for this. He tells he got very simple stories and all based on radicals. Anyway, have a read of the book. Wish I got paid for that plug. That'd be nice. Okay, so sagasu. Oops, sagasu and fukai. All right. So this is our other word that you know, Alright, last little bit. So, where's my paint? There. Okay, so 鹿は時々食べ物を探すために公園の外に出ます。So we got a ga here, so this is telling us a but, so we can kind of start translating the sentence from here, because this ga is telling us we got basically a full sentence that we can do, and then we just got a but happening over here. So 鹿は as for the deer, 時々食べ物を探すために. Alright, ために for the sake of or for the purpose of. So for the sake of searching for food, 食べ物を探す look for food. 時々 sometimes. Okay, so sometimes when the deer are looking for food, 公園の外. Alright, 公園の外 outside the park. 公園の中 inside the park. 公園の前 in front of the park. 公園の後ろ behind the park. Alright, 公園の外に出ます. So the deer will go out. 出ます. They will go out outside the park. 外公園に出る. 公園から出る I guess I should say. Anyway, so sometimes the deer will go outside the park looking for food. Okay, ga, but, how's this person saying but? こんなにたくさんの鹿が. Alright, so こんなにたくさん, right, it basically means this many, okay? たくさん obviously is many, but こんなに you go こんなにたくさん, そんなにたくさん, alright? We might remember this word from こんな, this type of, そんな, that type of, but anyway, こんなにたくさん, this is kind of a set phrase, this many, that many, or sorry, it should be this many, そんなにたくさん, that many, こんなにたくさん, this many. こんなにたくさんの鹿が街の中で見つかるのは珍しい. I should probably put 珍しい, 見つかる in there as well. But anyway, this many deer が街の中で見る. Okay, now 見つかる, this is actually to happen to see, or to be seen. Okay, so seeing this many deer in the center of the city は珍しい. Okay, so I probably should have done this at the beginning, but we see a wa here. Alright, so then all of this whole fragment is kind of one little describing clause, right? This many deer, seeing this many deer in the middle of the city は珍しいです. 珍しいです. Alright, so it's rare と言っています. Okay, now notice we have something a little bit interesting here. Now, first of all, we've got these our Japanese quotation marks. Okay, so this is a direct quote we have from this conservation guy or girl. And notice here we have des. Okay, so keep in mind that generally when you quote people, you're supposed to use the plain form. Okay, so we have, for example, this one here. Nara koen no shika da to. Actually, a bad example. There's no really good examples in this article, but this is kind of a unique thing that because we're quoting someone completely for a newspaper report, we actually put the des in there. But if you're if you're talking about what someone else said, you normally don't put this in there, but you can if you want. It's no big deal. と言っています. Okay, so again, we have a direct quote. So this is what they said. そして, okay, so these little joining phrases, I believe these are also called conjugations, very confusingly, but this is different from like a verb conjugation I was talking about before, but そして, alright, so this just kind of means and then, alright, so basically this person is, they got a few quotes from this person, but not necessarily, like they didn't kind of finish this sentence and then start here. Okay, they might have said some stuff in between, which the reporter decided not to quote. Okay, we don't know. It could be either way. But basically, it's kind of saying, and then, 鹿は何かに驚いて走っていたのかもしれません. Okay, so かもしれません. Alright, you need to know this for year 12. This just kind of expresses possible, maybe. Okay, Now it's very low in certainty, okay? So why? Well, this person is talking about trying to talk about the reasons why a whole bunch of deer are running down a street in Nara, okay? This person can't read minds as far as I know. They can't read the deer's minds, they don't know why. So they're just kind of hypothesizing, right? Giving some reasons why they think it's possible deer did this. Okay? So kamoshiremasen, okay? It's just really throwing something out there as a possibility. It's not saying it happened or not. I mean, if I was going to assign a percentage, I would say you're talking like 50% or below. All right, it's not really super certain. All right, kamoshiremasen. Okay, very common phrase. Okay, we have at the end of a sentence. I notice here that this is not written in kanji, even though it's referring to this shiru. All right. Kamoshiremasen. All right. Hashitteita. So they were running. Why? Odoroite. Okay, so this is a pretty tricky kanji. It's in our word list though. Odoroku. Okay, to be surprised. Nanika. Alright, notice that pronunciation. Nanika, not nanka. Nanika. Alright, there's a big difference between these words. I know it's crazy, but nanika means something. Okay, we see this is a very common criticism, by the way, of Year 12 students by examiners, but the criticism is that Year 12 students deal very poorly with these question words, especially when they're combined with the particle like this. Dare demo, doko ka, nani ka, nani mo nai. These kind of questions, okay? So you want to get very good at these question words with particles. Take Him has an excellent article on his website in the verb section called question words used with particles. It's kind of in like part 2 of his verbs bit, but you'll be able to find it. It's quite long, so just keep scrolling through the verbs section until you find what I'm talking about. It's about the second or third part though. So nanika, alright, this is one of the easier ones, right? When we put ka after our question words, it means something. So dareka, someone, dokoka, somewhere. Alright. So shikawa, as the deer, nanika ni. Alright, so this is our agent particle, okay? It's kind of pointing out what's the thing that did the scaring, okay? This is a bit of an advanced usage of ni. Think of it in your giving and receiving thing, how we say, tomodachi ni moratta, this kind of thing, alright? Okay, so nanika ni odoroite hashitteita no kamoshiremasen, alright? So basically saying, I think, it's possible that they got scared by something and started running, okay? And what evidence do they give for this? Alright, next line. Shika wa sugu ni odoroku doubutsu nanode. Okay, so again, we've got our nod there, so we can kind of say that that this bit is all kind of one little clause. Alright, and actually, we should probably include the na with the nod there, but anyway. Shika wa, so as for the deer, sugu ni. Alright, so sugu ni, this is soon. But sugu ni is kind of like quickly or easily, I guess. Alright, so sugu ni odoroku, so easily scared. Dobutsu. Okay, so some of you might say, oh, couldn't you just say like odoroki yasui? Odoroki yasui? Yes, okay, that could be said this way. And that's a Year 12 grammar point, so definitely keep in mind that it could be said like that. So, sugu ni odoroku doubutsu nanode. Okay, so node. I did a whole thing on compound sentences on this channel. I'll go back and look over it. It's very important grammar to know for Year 12. But basically, this is saying so, or because, right? And because we have doubutsu, which is a noun, we need to put na here, okay? Because it's not conjugated, it doesn't have des or janai or whatever there. If we have nothing else there between the node and doubutsu, we need to put na in there, okay? So shika wa sugu ni odoroku doubutsu nanode. So as for deer, they are easily scared animals, so shizuka ni miteite kudasai. Alright, so shizuka, this is a word you guys should know, but maybe not so much the kanji for sure, but to be quiet, alright, to be silent. Alright, shizuka ni. Shizuka ni. Okay, so this turns into what's called an adverb. Alright, I don't know if I put a circle there. Okay, this ni is changing it to an adverb. So it means that it's kind of acting on this verb of miteite. So basically, look at them quietly, alright? Don't just kind of, it's kind of dark. Might just get my light. I mean, I don't only have few minutes left, but probably should have left from the beginning anyway. Okay, but look at them quietly, okay? So don't just kind of make loud noises, just kind of go up there, give them their cookies. They're not really cookies, by the way. Take photos, you know, you can kind of pose with them. You can touch them as well, they're okay with being touched. You know, you just, I think you're supposed to rub them on the head or whatever. They're pretty docile. But yeah, so shizuka ni mite kudasai, okay? So don't make loud noises, you know. So of course, we get chastised a bit by the animal welfare people right near the end, of course, right? To itteimasu. Alright, so this is what they're saying. Okay, I think we'll call it there. That's a really good article. Um, uh, 1 second. Text stop. That's a really good article, I feel, for both some good advanced grammar, some really handy words in there to learn, but also it's kind of this article that I would really recommend you guys try and read, okay? If it's talking about some kind of cultural events or something about Japan that really only exists in Japan. I mean, I know there are deer elsewhere, but this kind of phenomenon of the deer in Nara, it's kind of a very Japanese thingy. So that's terrible. But yeah, um, definitely worth a read because you need to know about these type of things if you want to do well in Japanese. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Just I guess I should do a quick spiel before I let you guys go. Um, oh wait, that's the article. So in the Google Doc that I shared with the vocab list in there, I've just got a link to my ad on Gumtree. I'd really appreciate it if you guys check it out. Have a look. I do tutoring, both private lessons if you live in Western Australia, and I should specifically say the Perth metro area. I also do Skype or Google Hangout lessons. They're very similar to these lessons that you're seeing here on YouTube. It'll just be a bit more personalized towards you. Oops, don't know why I clicked on that then. And yeah, they're $40 an hour or $70 for 2 hours back to back. Alright. And then that just basically means $30 for every additional hour after that. And yeah, do any aspect of Japanese. So if you're doing JLPT particularly, I offer services for JLPT study. I have N2 and I'm going for N1 the end this year. I've got high hopes for myself to passing N1 this year. We'll see how we go. And but of course I do high school, university exam tutoring as well. I do a lot of that actually, a lot of high school tutoring. So yeah, I can help you read these types of articles, and you know, I learned Japanese as a second language. I wouldn't say that I'm bilingual, and sometimes I even wonder if I'm fluent. But I was able to live in Japan for a year. I worked in a hotel over there, which was a kind of all Japanese hotel, so I didn't really speak any English during that job, and I was able to do just fine. Um, Obviously, it's a bit different if I was going to work in a big company or something, but I feel like now, especially with my JLPT study, I feel very confident in dealing with business Japanese, so I can help tutor that as well. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and then you'll get notifications when I go live. And yeah, live every Monday, 10 a.m. So please drop in. Give me a comment if you'd like to see a particular video or there's an article perhaps you'd like to read. But otherwise, take care everyone, and I'll see you guys next time.